on your trip from here to wherever your connecting flight is, right? It's a short trip, a short read that you can perform just on the trip itself, and you can completely prepare. I highly recommend everyone to do what you can to prepare. Along with that, I wanted to recommend 2 books. One is this book called Virtues of Hajj. You can find this online on Amazon. You can go to Rumi bookstore here in Fremont, or if there's people in other parts of the Bay, I believe MCA bookstore has it as well, Sultana bookstore in Berkeley. I highly recommend this book. It's called Virtues of Hajj by Maulana Muhammad Zakaria Kandelawi. Very, very valuable book, filled with just reminders on what is the purpose of what we are doing. And the second book I recommend is called The Secrets of Pilgrimage by Imam Ghazali. It's been translated to English. Also highly recommended. Right? It's a excerpt from his magnum opus, Ihya Ulumuddin. And these books will help a person get into the right frame of mind. For those that want extra reading. If you're not a reader, the books that we've given out as gifts, that'll even be sufficient. Along with that, what we'll do is at the end of today's workshop, we're going to make a WhatsApp group just to allow everybody from our masjid to be, in communication with each other. We have some brothers and sisters going from our community that have gone for Hajj before or have gone for Umrah before. We just want to help each other out. And along with that, some of the teachers from this masjid, myself and others, will also be on that group in anything in terms of advice that we can offer from a distance. We want to do whatever we can to facilitate and make this easier. Now, on that note, there's a few things that we want to tell people before we even get to the technicalities of Hajj and what to do, the do's and don'ts and whatnot. There are a few things that we want to share. There's a few things we want to share that will just help us with preparation. So everybody that got a bag, you should have probably also gotten this handout. Even if you didn't get a bag, you should have gotten the handout. If you didn't get a handout, you can get it from Brother Roger in the back or Sister Nina on the women's side. But please do get this. We'll go through this very quickly for some preparation from a practical perspective. So if you look at this is a preparation Hajj packing checklist, right? So there's a few things that we want to advise people to do from a practical perspective, that will help with preparation for Hajj. Okay, so you'll notice that there's 2 sides to this. I took this checklist from 2 different checklists and you just put them together. They each have beneficial points. Before you go, these are some must-haves that I recommend everyone should have with you, right? This will just make your job a lot easier. Number 1, have a cell phone with WhatsApp installed on it. I highly recommend having a cell phone that's unlocked for international service, right? Because when you get there, there's a good chance you want to get a SIM card. You need to communicate. You need to communicate. Even if there are no groups, communication will make your life a lot easier, right? If nothing else, you can communicate with the brothers and sisters going from this masjid. It'll help a lot. Have a cell phone, have WhatsApp installed so you can actually be part of the group and communicate. And along with that, either have an international roaming plan. If your service provider allows it, it's $10, $20, $30. It's well worth it, right? Some people might already have it. T-Mobile, for example, I know they allow international data roaming, which also gets the job done. There's other ways around it, but basically have a way to communicate. And if you want, one advice that was given, if your phone is compatible with it, you can look at it online how to do it. You can convert your current SIM into an eSIM, so you can retain your cell phone service. And then when you get to Jeddah, in the airport itself, you can get a SIM card and have service in Saudi. I can't emphasize this is very, very useful. I highly recommend it. Have it with a basic data plan, so you can also use Google Maps, because Google Maps will also make your life a lot easier. I highly, highly recommend that. I can't emphasize that enough. It will really make your life a lot easier. So have a cell phone with WhatsApp and also an international data roaming plan, or at least an unlocked phone for local service. Get a travel adapter, so you can charge your phone. If you have other devices that you need, medical devices or anything like that, have a good travel adapter. If any devices that you take, it should be able to work on 240 volts. Just take your phone or your charger or whatever for its specifications. For men, make sure you pack an ihram. And in particular, make sure your ihram is in your handbag, not in your checked luggage. You need your ihram in your handbag. You will get into your ihram on the way. I don't believe, does anybody have a direct flight from like Los Angeles to Jeddah? You have a direct flight? Okay. If you have a direct flight from Los Angeles to Jeddah, what you're going to need to do is get into ihram on the flight itself. Inshallah, Maulana Ahmad, when he's doing this presentation, he will explain that. Pay close attention to that. Just keep that in mind as well for some of them, inshallah. So keep your ihram in your handbag. We had a brother a few months back, a friend of ours, who forgot and accidentally packed his ihram in his luggage, and he was scrambling in Istanbul airport trying to figure out how is he going to get into ihram. Right? Make sure your hand is not in your checked luggage. It's in your hand luggage, because you will need it before you land, before you have access to your suitcase. Sisters can wear anything for ihram that will be covered, inshallah. Take a travel umbrella, but a sturdy one, because it gets very hot. You will be doing Hajj in the summertime. This will help you with the shade. It's permissible to use an umbrella. Get a nice backpack from Mina. The bags that we handed out, these are handy, useful bags for this and that, but it won't be sufficient for going to Mina, right? Have a nice backpack. I don't know whose bag that is in the back right there. Roger, could you just pick up that bag and show it? And then you can also pass it over the, behind you. I don't know whose bag that is. You can take permission. Is that the bag?
Oh yeah, that's mine. Yeah.
Everyone can see that's a really nice, good sized bag for Mina. You can also just carry it over the top of the divider so the sisters can take a look. This is a good sized bag, right? Just basics. You don't want a lot, but enough for you to just be able to get around to Mina. So have a nice backpack. Take a sleeping bag from Muzdalifah. There'll be one night where you'll be spending outdoors. There won't be a tent. There won't be any carpet. You'll be sleeping on the natural ground. This will be our mujahada for Hajj, inshallah. If you need a good sleeping bag, get a good sleeping bag. If you need a good mat, get a good mat, whatever you're comfortable with. If you're used to roughing it, if you're used to camping, you can get these little sleeping mats in Makkah and Medina. I use that. It's not that bad. It's a small thing.
Yeah, it's coming.
So you can get that, but realize one night you're going to be spending outdoors in the open. Get something that you'll be comfortable upon and that you can carry with you. So I recommend that you take that with you. A good money belt that will serve as a belt for ihram. Now, your ihram, to keep it up, inshallah, you probably use a belt. But you want a good money belt or some sort of a bag that will allow you to carry, your valuables with you. You can do like a fanny pack, right? You can do a fanny pack, or I personally prefer small bags like this, which you can just kind of carry, side saddle with you. Sisters, you're allowed to wear anything for ihram. I recommend wearing something that has pockets. It'll make your life easier, right? So have something, you can have it under your abaya, right? But have something with pockets. Men, because we don't have pockets, having a nice bag is very handy, right? You put your phone in there, you put your money in there, you put whatever you need in there. Along with that, then also have a nice travel pouch for your documents. A nice travel pouch where you can keep your documents, your passport, and so on and so forth. There's a possibility the government may take your passport when you arrive and they'll return it when you go back. There's a possibility they may let you keep it with you. We don't know. This year things are going to be different. You'll find out when you land, unfortunately. But if they keep it, then they'll be responsible for it. But if they don't keep it, then you'll be responsible for it. Keep a travel pouch. I don't recommend the travel pouches that go around your waist because they do slip off. It happened to me. Alhamdulillah, Allah was able to recover it, but it does slip off and people do lose it. It's happened to me, it's happened to others as well. These ones that you wear around your neck are much more convenient. And like I said, sisters, you can wear anything during ihram. It's worthwhile to wear something with pockets or have a small bag that you can keep underneath your abaya. Along with that, medication and prescription copies, keep them in your carry-on luggage. One point on your travel documents, make copies of all your travel documents and keep a backup somewhere. Keep it with you in case the government does take your passport, so you have backups. And make digital copies so you can access it through your email. Make digital copies and leave it with a relative or a loved one or a friend. So if in case you can't access it, at least somebody over here can access it. But make backups of all your travel documents, right? That includes your vaccine certifications, your passports, your visas, all those documents. Keep a personal, keep the originals, keep a copy, and keep a digital copy, right? All of these will be very, very useful and very, very handy. Medication and prescriptions, have an extra bed sheet if you need it in Muzdalifah, in case it's needed. A towel to use in Mina, you'll be in Mina for 5-6 days. Keep in mind the hotels will probably be furnished, will be supplying towels, but in Mina you'll be on your own. So keep what you need when you're in Mina, a small towel, something that you easily pack. Sandals for the state of Ihram. Inshallah, Ahmed will explain what type of sandals you'll wear in Ihram. You have your normal shoes or sandals that you'll wear throughout your trip, but have a specific set of sandals that fit the criteria of ihram, Mawlana Ahmed will be covering that inshallah. This is specific to men. Women, again, you can wear any type of shoes, any type of sandals, perfectly fine. Get another set of sandals that's comfortable for walking. You'll do a lot of walking. You'll do a lot of walking. I recommend, for that matter, if you're prone to getting cracked heels and such like that, get whatever you need for that. Shea butter, petroleum jelly, cortisone. If you know yourself and what you need when you travel a lot, I recommend have these anyways. Get small travel sizes. Then they're useful, because their fatigue is built and it'll be very hot. Get a good insulated cold water bottle, hydration pouches, snacks for Mina and Muzdalifah. You never know. You might be cut off from everything, and you might just have to suffice on some snacks. Keep some energy bars, keep some Cliff bars or some protein bars, whatever you need. Keep some light snacks that you can carry with you. That in case you're cut off, you're not, you can't get back to the hotel in time for breakfast. You can't get back to your group. Well, you won't have groups, but you can't get to a place in time for lunch or dinner, so that you can quickly eat something and you'll have energy. Dates are very useful. You can get those there as well. But have some snacks that will be able to give you energy. Fragrance-free sanitary products, basic cosmetics, have with you. The days that you will be outside of your hotels, they might be useful. I recommend, keep it to what you need. Right? Don't overpack, because it will make your life easier. Women will need to cut their hair after Hajj and Umrah. It's only an inch. We'll talk about that later. Only an inch, but you'd be surprised how not having a pair of scissors makes that a whole lot harder. So sisters, I advise pack a pair of scissors, put it into your check luggage so TSA doesn't trouble you. We mentioned these next few points. Highly recommended for men, have an extra ihram. If you need an extra ihram, you'll be able to get it there. But in the heat of the moment, it becomes very, very inconvenient. Take an extra ihram with you. If you don't want to pack that much, take half of an extra ihram with you, right? Just one sheet. But it'll be useful if you're going in a group. Maybe the men together could take one extra ihram, some way or another. But in case something happens where your ihram gets defiled or dirty or in one way or another, you have an extra set to get into. Otherwise, it becomes very inconvenient. Sometimes in Mina, things do get a little. Imagine in a small space you're going to have millions of people. Things do get sometimes muddy and dirty and things like that. These travel hangers that they have, where you can they're like temporary hooks. You can just set on a table. You can set on a wall. They come in quite handy. I would recommend that if anybody would like. These travel hooks come very useful. On the second size, a few more points that we haven't covered already. Take cash in crisp $100 bills. You get more for your money if you take hundreds. They give you less if you take 50s and 20s and anything else, right? So take hundreds. Try to take at least 500. It's a good safe number. If you need to take more, but don't overdo it either, because it's just extra thing to be worried about. Your original passport and your travel documents, we already mentioned that. Your COVID vaccination card, your PCR test results. Take a copy with you. Depending on airlines, this happened to a relative of mine recently. Depending on airlines, if it's not in color, they won't accept it. So take a paper copy that's printed in color. Just whatever you can avoid trouble, right? Do what you can. It's a small extra cost, but it's worth it to avoid trouble. Disposable surgical masks for the plane, if it may or may not be required during Hajj itself, just to have on hand. We already mentioned this medicine prescription. We also already mentioned the data plan. For women, we mentioned there's no specific ihram, but keep in mind also it's going to be very hot. Take clothing. It's going to be hot. It's going to be very, think of it like you're camping for 5 days, the days of Hajj. Wear clothing that will be suitable for you, right? Shoes, if you're comfortable in shoes, I would recommend them, because there will be a lot of walking and you'll just be more comfortable. Men cannot wear shoes, but sisters can. So whatever you can do, just keep in mind the travel conditions. Expect the scenario to be like you're camping for 5 to 6 days. Get a phone charger, like we mentioned, a universal travel adapter, basic hygiene products, hydration products, comfortable walking shoes and sandals. Take the books that will help you. Take a Quran, or if you want to buy a Quran, you can buy a Quran. But take those things that will allow you to use your time and maximize it, right? Remember the purpose for Hajj. The purpose for Hajj is to reconnect with Allah. The purpose for Hajj, and we're going to get into this now, transitioning. The purpose for Hajj is for us to be able to prepare and be in the right frame of mind and submit ourselves to Allah. This is a devotion. And I want to mention this now, and I'll mention it again as we go through some of the spiritual advices of Hajj. that remember one thing that people do is because we all know what to do when we get there, people end up spending the bulk of their time in the mall. Right? It's one of the most hated places to Allah are the malls. Why? Because there's no remembrance of Allah within them. It's a place where people are quickly heedless of Allah. Not saying that don't go to the store to buy stuff. If you have certain things you want, what I advise everyone to do, make a list of the things that you want to get ahead of time. Be it gifts, be it things that you can't find in America, so you want to get them from the Haramain. Make a list, knock out your shopping in 1 or 2 days. That way you're not living in the malls. But try to maximize their time there. There's only one Makkah, there's only one Medina. Right? There's a lot of malls. There's a lot of stores. Amazon is on everyone's phone now. Right? There's certain things you can only do in front of the Kaaba. Take advantage of that time. Do tawaf. Even looking at the Kaaba is a special type of ibadah. You're tired, you're exhausted, you don't know what to do. Just go into the haram, lean against the pillar, relax, and just stare at the Kaaba. And you'll get the mercy of Allah descending upon you the entire time. Why? Because we're looking at this amazing creation of Allah that is literally attracting people from around the world, like a magnet pulling at metal. Right? Like the gravity of the sun, it keeps all the planets in the solar system in orbit. That gravity of that Kaaba is pulling the believers from around the world, and people are in orbit around the Kaaba. Just make this, ponder this, the magnitude and the majesty of where we stand. And this is the place where all the messengers and prophets came to visit. There's not a prophet of Allah that they did not walk in those places. There's not a Sahaba of the Prophet except they walked in those places. The Prophet himself set the black stone in this place. It's a blessed place. So try to take advantage of those blessed moments. Right? Make a goal. I want to make one reading of the Quran while I'm there. If you can do one reading in Arabic and one reading in the meaning of the Quran, all the better. I make goals for yourself. Every day I'm going to recite 300 times Salah al-Nabi, Durud Sharif. Every day I'm going to recite La ilaha illallah 100 times, Subhanallah 100 times, Allahu Akbar 100 times, Alhamdulillah 100 times. Make goals for yourself, spiritual goals. I recommend this book again, The Virtues of Hajj. They'll tell you what goals should you have for Hajj and Umrah. What goals should you have for visiting Medina. It'll give us things to do and it'll keep us busy. Because these days, you may never come back again. These days, you may never get another chance to go back for Hajj. Just look at the scenario that we're in right now. Right? People waiting 1, 2, 3 years. Some people even going to go this year. So we never have a guarantee that we'll be able to get a chance to go back. Maximize on those times. Part of that maximization, take your Qur'ans, take your tasbih, take your, take whatever you need to take. But take books, take whatever you need to take. But maximize on your time that while you're there. A couple more points from a practical perspective. Let me just quickly go through these notes. When you first arrive in Jeddah, just like I mentioned, some logistical things, inshallah, will take over with regards to the actual process of Hajj. Keep in mind, this is how things traditionally used to be. The most chaotic period of Hajj, or at least one of the most chaotic periods of Hajj, is when you first land, until you get to Makkah. It's long, it's tiresome, and it's chaotic. Typically, what would happen is you would land, they would take you into the terminal, you would clear customs and immigration, and then you would wait there for your group. They would find a bus for you, and then as a group, you would then travel to what was known as the Mutawaf office. They would check you in there, and then from there, they would take you to your hotels. Here, we don't know what to expect per se. What most of the people that have experience are expecting right now is when you land, same thing will happen. They'll process you through immigration and customs. Expect that to be a long process. Keep in mind that there's 1.5 million people that will be arriving in the span of a couple of weeks. To give you an example of kind of how congested and how busy things will be, imagine if the entire population of the Bay Area decided to go to San Francisco on the same day. That's roughly the example of showing up for Hajj. Why? Because just like if you're going to San Francisco, the only way you're going to get there is either the Bay Bridge or the San Mateo Bridge or 101. There's only so many avenues of showing up in San Francisco. Makkah is the same way. It's surrounded by mountains. There's only a handful of roadways for you to be able to get there. It is going to be very congested, and it's going to be something very exhausting, and they're doing things new this year. Be prepared for that process to take a long time. But you'll land, you'll clear customs and immigration, and then you'll probably get queued up in line for them to take you by bus to your hotels in Makkah. You may have to make some stops in between, but like I said, be very patient. That's all I can advise. Try to, whoever the ground crew is there, try to, meet with them and hopefully they have someone sound, but just know you need to get to Makkah. The buses will take you to Makkah. They won't abandon you there. They've been doing Hajj for decades in this manner, right? The only thing that changed is the middleman. So there's a slight change, but it's not a huge change for the staff that is actually going to be at the airport. The staff at the airport, this is going to be routine. The bus drivers, this is going to be routine. The hotel people that you're going to be checking in with, this is going to be routine. The middleman is the only place where there's a little bit of uncertainty of what's going on. Be patient. Be patient. I really advise, please be patient. But know what you need to do. You need to get onto a bus, find out where the buses are. They'll take you to the right bus. They'll take you to where you need to get to. Like I said, the government may take your passport and have control of it, or they may allow you to keep it. We don't know what to expect, but inshallah, we'll see. Okay, now we'll just go over a couple of points in the slides. Okay. So before we set out for this journey, there's some spiritual aspects we want to cover real quick.
The wrong display.
These are some spiritual elements that we want to talk about before we even start, right? Remember, this is a spiritual exercise, right? This is an exercise of us getting connected with Allah. Start by making sincere tawbah, right? Make a repentance. Hajj is an act of repentance. We're wiping away all our sins. Part of that is restoring the rights of the people that we've wronged. Remember, Allah will forgive all sins except when we've done some act of oppression, except when we've hurt someone, and we need to restore their rights. That is a matter that we need to resolve between us and them. Allah will not interfere out of honor of honoring that Muslim. So if there's anybody that we've gotten into any problems with, give them a phone call, give them a call, ask them to forgive you, make amends. Brothers and sisters, this is something that not only does it wipe clean our record, it also spiritually humbles you and readies you for Hajj. Make amends of past grievances, providing and make sure you've provided for the expenditure of your family and dependents. And if anyone has entrusted you with anything, return those trusts. Prepare for Hajj as if like you would prepare for death. Imam Ghazali mentions this, right? The whole act of Hajj is like a preparation for death. And part of that is, if you were to die on this trip, what do you need to make right before you go? Start with that attitude. Take provisions of lawful wealth that will suffice you on the journey without being wasteful, but enough that you can also spend on others and give to the poor and needy. Make intention to give some sadaqah. There will be a lot of poor people there. Make intention of giving sadaqah. Make intention of also doing that, and take enough means with you to be able to do that as well. Take the supplies that we've already spoken about. Give some sadaqah before you go with the intention that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this journey easy for you, that He accept it from you. Try to choose good company before you go, because the people of excellence, of good character, that might be a little challenging now because we don't have the means to do so, but at least try to find out some of those good people that will be with you and try to associate with them as much as you can on Hajj. You'll find good people there. Remember, Hajj is the meeting ground of the awliya of Allah. It's where the awliya of Allah and the ulama and the salihin and the righteous, they all meet in the Hajj. There's a lot of righteous people there. Hunt them out and spend time with them. You'll find them on the plane even. I still remember our brother, Allah reward him, on the plane with me. The entire trip from San Francisco airport to Frankfurt, we sat next to each other. The entire trip, it's about a 14-hour flight. He spent 14 hours reading Quran. In between, he would just take off his glasses, rub his eyes, drink a little bit of juice or water, and then he'd get back to reading Quran. 14 hours. I can't say what he did from Jeddah to from Frankfurt to Jeddah, because we weren't sitting next to each other, but it wouldn't surprise me if he was also still reading Quran. Right? You find those people and be with them. I was honored to be with them, and he was my roommate in the Hajj as well. So there was, find those good people and be with them. Guard your speech more than anything else. Right? Guard your speech. Be patient. There's going to be times when you want to yell and scream at somebody. Have patience in those moments. There's going to be times that you want to say something bad to someone. That's the time for patience. Patience is not when things are good and you're happy. There's no patience required, when you have the food that you want, the drink that you want, and the company that you want. Patience is the time when you're angry and you want to yell and scream. That's when patience is needed. So guard your speech, try to feed and serve the people, demonstrate the best of behavior. Reality is those internal qualities that we have that will become manifest on this trip, that will make this trip the true reality of what it needs to be. Try to speak good things or don't speak at all. Bid farewell to one's friends and families at home, request their prayer. If possible, leave on a Thursday morning. This is not so practical in our day and age because set for us. But pray 2 rakat salat before leaving, ask Allah's assistance, that He take care of you, your property, your belongings, your family, everything. Make dua for everything. If you think it's something that, it feels like it's a dunyawi dua, I'm asking Allah, oh Allah, protect my money. No, ask Allah to protect your money. Why? Because if you lose your money on this trip, you'll see how hard it is for you to focus on your worship. It's nothing wrong with that. Asking Allah, protect my money, protect my wealth, protect my family, protect my health. Ask Allah for all those things. Why? Because if anything goes wrong, any one of those things, it completely ruins the spiritual experience. One should also be keen to be constant in prayers and all the rites, right? Be mindful of your salats. Don't miss your salats. Brothers and sisters on the plane, there's a lot of ways you can spend your time. Don't spend your time in futile activity. I know the entertainment system is there, right? You can watch whatever movie you want that's been come out in the last 50 years. All those things are there. Remember what this trip is about. Remember what this trip is about. This is not a normal trip. The trip starts from the moment you step foot from your house. The trip starts there. Remember that there's people that have left for a Hajj, but they were not able to make it to Mecca. They had to come back. Happened to my parents one year, right? My parents one year, they set out for Hajj. They got to New York. The connecting flight was in New York. In New York, somebody came from behind, stole their passports, and ran off. And in that season, there's no possibility of finding a new flight. They had to completely cancel their Hajj. Right? This happened with people. They got on the plane full of Hajjaj, and the engines don't start. All the people are stuck. So do whatever you can, realizing that you're not there until you actually are there. And realize that if you are appreciating the bounties of Allah, and we're not saying this to judge people that are stuck, but we're realizing that until we're actually there, Allah can snatch it away from us if we don't appreciate it. So ask Allah to allow us to reach that point. Ask Allah to accept us throughout that point. A couple of last points that I'll mention from Imam Ghazali mentioned some beautiful advices, some that we've already shared, some that we haven't mentioned, and I'll hand it over to Maulana Ahmad to cover the method of Hajj. Take out all ulterior motives. Ulterior motives can creep in, right? My brother is coming there from, Timbuktu, and I want to meet him for the first time, and that's why I'm going to Hajj. Take it out of your heart. Inshallah, if you meet him, you meet him. Take out all ulterior motives. I'm going to go buy these goods that I can come back and sell. Take out all these ulterior motives. Don't allow there to be another motive that creeps into your heart. Go with sincere intentions and take out all distractions if possible from the get-go. Have the attitude of wanting to share food. Have the attitude of wanting to share advice. Have the attitude of wanting to do sadaqah. Have the attitude, if you can do nothing else, to smile at people and make them happy. Right? Try to make a plan for how to use your time properly, because in the absence of a plan, like I say, if you don't plan for a failure, so what is it?
You fail to plan.
Then if you fail to plan, then plan to fail. If you fail to plan, then plan to fail. Make a plan on how will you utilize your time the best. Because like I say, the idle mind is the devil's workshop. If you leave that vacancy, if you leave that unoccupied time, you don't know what to do, Shaitan will figure something out for you. So make a plan, take things with you. I'm not saying that go and just take things that you enjoy. Take some books on the lives of the Sahaba. Take books on the life of the Prophet ﷺ. Read those books. It'll motivate you. It'll encourage you. Do those things that will benefit you. Do those things that will interest you, right? Take some pen and paper. Write letters to your parents. Write letters to your brothers and sisters. And these are the letters that I wrote for you in Hajj. This is a gift for you. There's so many beautiful ways we can use our time and utilize it. But try to make a plan. Take a Quran so you can read something on the plane itself. Do dhikr. Imam Ghazali mentions, remember, Allah loves in Hajj. They mentioned the most beloved Hajj to Allah is al-Hajj with Thajj. The Hajj is when you're Hajj and Thajj is you're tore up, you're disheveled, you're covered in dust, you're dirty, and you're just screaming, Labbaik Allahumma labbaik. Labbaik. You're making the dhikr of Allah like a madman. Why? Why does Allah love this? Ordinarily, our deen does not have any monasticism. Other faiths, other religions, they have monasticism, right? With Christians, they become monks, they become priests, they swear off marriage, their life is dedicated to God. Buddhists do these things. Our deen does not prescribe that. Our deen is prescribed to be a path of practical implementation. But there's one act, there's a handful of acts, but one salient act when we're actually supposed to become like that crazy person, mad in love for Allah. That is the Hajj. Hajj is supposed to be something where you forget everyone and everything else. You don't care if people think you're crazy. It's ordinarily, you don't want to show up at the masjid and people think you're crazy. You don't want to show up at work and people think you're crazy. This is not from Islamic character. There's one time where we're allowed to, rather we're encouraged to, act like that crazy person. I mean, obviously crazy in the sense, not like literally losing your senses, but literally, you're a person that you don't care how you look, you don't care how you sound, you don't care what anyone thinks about you, you only care about what Allah thinks about you. That's why during Hajj, certain things are prescribed, then really there's no logic behind them if you really wanted to think about it. Then why would anyone actually behave like this? You're walking around screaming, Labbaik Allahumma labbaik, Allah, I'm here, Allah, I'm here. You would think that that person would be crazy. No, in this moment, that person is not crazy. This person is crazy in love with Allah. Allah wants to see that. That this person forgot to brush their hair, this person forgot to wear their makeup, this person forgot to put on any fragrance, they smell bad, they look bad. For those days, the days of Hajj, Allah is telling us, I want you to demonstrate, forget yourself, forget everything else, and just remember Allah. This is Hajj. And this is what Allah loves. Because look, brothers and sisters, why are we generally speaking encouraged to be presentable? Wear fragrance, brush your teeth, brush your hair, be clean. Not because Allah needs it, because our fellow Muslims need it. If you show up to Jumu'ah, smelling like you haven't taken a shower in 2 months, it's not going to hurt Allah. It's going to hurt the Muslims next to you. Right? If you don't brush your teeth for the next 3 weeks, it's not going to hurt Allah. It's going to hurt your wife and kids. Right? If you do these things, that our deen is a balanced religion, which is considerate of others. So all these things of orderliness, of cleanliness, of presentability, it's here for the purpose of allowing us to go through life in a successful manner. Allah wants that from us. But for a few days in our entire life, Allah is saying, forget everyone else. And He's telling it to everybody. Forget everyone else. Proclaim the talbiyah and don't worry about how you look and smell. Don't use any fragrance. Fragrance is haram for you now. Yes, sisters, don't scream the talbiyah. It's not prescribed for sisters to scream the talbiyah. But realize the attitude that we're going with. We're forgetting everything else. For men, it's usually easier to proclaim the talbiyah. For sisters, it's usually a little harder to give up the scented lotions and the scented soaps. Whatever. The cosmetics for a few days, 5 days, 6 days. Forget the cosmetics. 5 days, 6 days. Scream like a madman. Labbaik Allahumma labbaik. But for these few days, adopt that. Allah wants to see that humility. So even in our traveling, don't be flossy and flashy. Right? If you can go in economy class is actually better for you than first class on this trip. Imam Ghazali mentions use the cheap the cheap donkey. Don't use the good donkey. He mentions use the cheap donkey. Don't use the good donkey. The donkey that's used for goods and not for riding people. Use that donkey. Right? Like that, whatever we can do to adopt humility, adopt it on this path. He mentions have mercy upon even the animals. Okay, we don't ride animals anymore. But he said every now and then if you're traveling, get off your camel, get off your horse, get off your donkey, have mercy on it and let it have rest. What can we do, brothers? Have mercy on the bus driver. Have mercy on the airport employee. The guy at the check-in table is taking too long to check you in. Have mercy on them. Don't yell at them. Don't scream at them. Be patient with them. It's taking a while for them to find you a bus. Have mercy on that person who's working at the bus stand. Have mercy on these employees and these people that are working. They're there to serve you. Have mercy upon them for the sake of Allah, because these are also the slaves of Allah. And generally speaking, throughout this trip, be easygoing. And in fact, Imam Ghazali mentions this point, and I'll end with this point. He mentions, have an easygoing disposition in everything. In the money you spend, be easygoing. Right? The attitude of the Prophet in general terms was zin warajah, right? that weigh out what you're gonna, if you're buying something that's weighable, weigh it, but give that person a little bit of extra money. Or to give that person a little bit of extra commodity. That was the Prophet's general habit. This is an opportunity for us. The shopkeeper there, his livelihood, you bought something for 4 riyals, here, keep the change, keep it 5. Be easygoing, be nice, be generous, be as easygoing as possible. When you go through difficulties and hardship, be patient and easygoing and possible. And how do you do this? Brothers and sisters, write this down if you have to. How do you do this? He says, remind yourself that the sign of the acceptance of your Hajj is in those moments when you need to be patient. You've demonstrated that patience. The secret is, the proof that Allah will accept your Hajj is every time I got angry, every time I got frustrated, every time I got annoyed, I exhibited a smile and I exhibited the best of characters. At the moment when it was meant for me to get upset, at that moment, at that juncture, I held myself, I controlled myself, and I turned myself to Allah. Do it hoping that Allah will reward you, not hoping, knowing that Allah will reward you, knowing that Allah will compensate you. Because what is the reward for patience? Allah will compensate those that are patient without any calculation. There's no counting when it comes to the compensation of patience, right? Because everything else has a finite amount. Patience is something that can't be quantified. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shall compensate the patient. إن الله يوفي الصابرون أجرهم بغير حساب. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shall compensate the patient without any reckoning, without any counting. Do it with this hope. And know that inshallah, if I'm able to exhibit that character throughout this trip, that is the very proof that inshallah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has accepted this Hajj. With that, I will hand it over to Maulana Ahmad, who will now explain the actual fiqh of Umrah and Ihram. This is very important, brothers and sisters. The hardest part of the rites of Hajj, or one of the hardest parts of the rites of Hajj, is Ihram. Please pay close attention to it. We'll also discuss at the end of this the punishable offenses, the jinayat. There are certain things in Hajj and Umrah which are punishable offenses. Meaning if you do them, you must be punished. Just like, for example, if you're caught speeding by the cops, you will have to be punished. You get that speeding ticket. Your insurance is going to go up. You run a red light, you're going to be punished. There are certain things, if you do wrong in Hajj, you're going to be punished. There's not like somebody standing by Hajj al-Aswad with a whip that's going to beat you. But this, you have to be punished in the sense that before you come back, you owe a fine. You owe a penalty that you must give in order for your Hajj to be completed. So we don't want to be punished. The biggest place where people slip up during the punishments is not doing Ihram properly. Please listen attentively. Inshallah, Maulana Ahmad will kindly share with us the proper way of doing Umrah. If we have to break for Salat in between, inshallah, we'll break for Salat. Promptly after Sunnahs, please come back. We'll resume with the more we need off.
والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. We covered most of the aspects, spiritual, and the necessary requirements that we need on our journey. And as we mentioned, the biggest thing and the biggest provision that a person can take, obviously going with the Quran, is taqwa. And included in taqwa is having patience. Having patience. This is a trip, and this is a journey, and this is a safar. And as we all know, that what the Prophet ﷺ said, that journey and traveling, this is a portion of punishment. It's not easy travel. It's not easy traveling, despite modern all these technologies and advances. Still, sometimes it's very hard. And I can tell you from personal experience. I was just traveling, and I had a quick trip. My trip was delayed 12 hours. I was supposed to reach my destination 8 o'clock in the morning. I reached 8 o'clock at night. So having patience, this is the biggest thing to do. Just have patience and understand. Having patience, from one of the qualities that is needed for having patience is belief in the taqdeer. In taqdeer, whatever happens, sometimes unforeseen circumstances occurs, and we're like, oh my God, why did this happen? Oh no. Instead of saying, oh no, why did this happen? We say, Qaddar-Allah wa ma sha'a fa'al. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had predestined it, He had preordained it, and He does what He wills. He does what He wills. So, inshallah, my portion is very easy. Alhamdulillah, jazakallah. I'm just going to be explaining, although it's easy, it's very important, and key points to be taken from it, inshallah, is explaining the ihram and the umrah portion. So before we get started, we're going to pretend that we're at home and we're about to set off on our journey. Speaking practically, and again, this is an interactive session. If anybody has any questions, feel free to stop me and we can answer this question. So as we're leaving our house, after we prepare all of our provisions and whatever we need, and we're about to set out, we pray 2 rakats salat al-safar. We pray 2 rakats salat al-safar. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this journey easy for us. We ask Him to grant barakah and blessings in this trip and make it beneficial and accepted from us. And aside from that, if anybody is traveling directly from LA to Jeddah, and is there a connecting place? Other people have no connecting place. SubhanAllah. Anybody traveling to Medina first, or it's all Jeddah first? Everything's Jeddah first.
I think it's sure.
Was it?
They're not sure.
Oh, they're not sure yet. Okay. I see. So if you're flying Jeddah first, and especially if you're flying directly from here, so you need to keep a few things in mind. Obviously, before you set on the journey, this is, it says before ihram, but everybody should do this before setting out on the journey, which is, removing unwanted hair, trimming the nails, taking ghusl, or if not, at the very least, wudu. And and where's our, just, making sure, where's our ihram? Now, hand carry on. Don't put in your luggage. Don't put in your checking luggage. It's in here? It's in your carry-on. So if you're going to be traveling directly, then you have two options. Number one, you can put your ihram as soon as you're in LA or whatever the departing airport is. People will look at you, but that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. As Maulana Kawthar mentioned, you're going on a very spiritual journey. Other people's opinion shouldn't matter to you. So this is one option that you can do. You can put on the ihram as you're leaving your house. As you're leaving your house, you can just put on the ihram, and that's how you can travel. But obviously, this will be very difficult. Traveling with the ihram on, it's not easy, and there might be like uncomfortable circumstances during the flight, so on and so forth. So you don't have to put on your ihram when you're leaving your departing airport. What a person can do is, as we'll mention later on, he can put on the ihram, and I did this one time, and people were like, oh, where's your ihram? Put on your ihram. Like almost the entire flight, I didn't put on the ihram. And then as soon as, the announcement came, and most of this, if you're going either through Turkish Airlines or Saudi Airlines, they'll announce it. As soon as you're about to reach the miqat, they'll announce it on the on the plane that you're about to reach the miqat. And it doesn't take long for you to put on your ihram. You just, go to a private place, lavatory or whatever it is, and put on the ihram. So when you do this, remember, when you put on the physical ihram, meaning the two pieces of clothing, you're not in the state of ihram. You're just wearing the ihram. There's difference, okay? There's the actual state of ihram, and there is just the clothing, which we call ihram. Just two pieces of white clothing. That's known as the ihram. But the actual state of ihram is when all those things which are forbidden they come into effect. You can't cut your nails. You can't trim your mustache. You can't remove any unwanted hair. You can't use fragrance. You can't use scented soap, so on and so forth. When you're actually in that state of ihram, all these things become forbidden. All these things become prohibited. Similarly, covering the head becomes prohibited. Wearing the sandals, which will cover all these things, inshallah, when they come. All those things, they become prohibited. So going back to the airport, just making sure that you have everything, and If you want, you can pray your 2 rakat. If you are putting on the ihram at the airport, then you pray 2 rakat salatul. You just pray 2 rakat nafil, and this is for the ihram. This is the prayer for the ihram. So you pray that 2 rakats, but I recommend this for everybody, don't recite the talbiyah. As soon as you make the intention and you read the talbiyah, you're in the actual state of ihram. And that's when everything becomes forbidden. And that's when everything becomes forbidden, and all the, it becomes harder basically. So you can put on your ihram, just don't make the intention of ihram. Just don't make the intention of umrah or ihram or whatever, the case may be. So after you're, the clothes of ihram, as mentioned here for the men, it's unsewn pieces. Oh yeah, inshallah, it's coming. So we'll get to that. Inshallah. The talbiyah is basically labbaik Allahumma labbaik, labbaik la sharika laka labbaik. That one, it's going to come inshallah. So for the men, the clothing of ihram is basically the 2 pieces of unsewn white clothing. It should not cover the head, and they should wear the sandals, which will come on the next slide. And this must be worn before entering the miqat boundaries. As we mentioned, if you're going in Saudi Airlines, they will announce it as soon as you're about to reach the miqat. They'll announce it actually a little beforehand. Yes.
So even before miqat, when we put the ihram,
Yes.
we are not supposed to do niyyah or
You
talbiyah?
you can, but remember, as soon as you read the niyyah and you read the intention and you do the talbiyah, now you're in the state of ihram. The longer you're in the state of ihram, depends on the
So when
person.
is the best time to do that?
When they say that you're passing the miqat, just as soon as they say we're about to pass the miqat, read the intention there and do your talbiyah there. Okay? That's my recommendation. Of course, you're allowed to read the intention whenever you want. As soon as you put on the ihram, you're allowed to read the intention and you're allowed to read the talbiyah. So as is seen here, these are the ihram. This is the ihram for men, the 2 pieces of unsewn clothing and the sandals. You cannot wear anything that covers the top part of the feet. You have to wear the sandals, which, sandals basically. Any questions? And then women, they can wear anything. Okay, women are allowed to wear any clothing they want. Obviously, they cannot cover their face directly. They cannot cover their face directly, like meaning with a niqab, and they cannot cover their hands and they cannot cover their feet, which is the norm. Otherwise, they can wear whatever clothing they want. I was going to show when we actually, but I can show you that. Yeah. So as it's inshallah, we can just we'll just show the for the men how the ihram should be worn. So there's 2 pieces of clothing. The first one, or whichever one is for the bottom. And obviously, if you're not a professional like myself, you can always use a belt. You're allowed to use a belt. Brought a belt. So you can use any type of belt. Obviously, what is recommended is the
Ihram belt. They have special belts for
ihram
ihram,
belt. Yes.
where you can keep your money, your belongings, whatever you're more comfortable with, you can use, inshallah.
So the best thing is to use that ihram belt, so you can actually keep your phone, you can keep your necessary documents, and you can keep your money on you as right in front of you.
You can also use a fanny pack if you like.
So what about those black clouds? We cannot have that.
You can have that. Yeah. You're not allowed to wear any clothing that's stitched, but bags, accessories, things of that nature, even a watch, there's nothing wrong with those things. But it can't be stitched clothing. That's the key thing here. And then also that bone, the top bone of your foot, that needs to be exposed. So like flip flops, so you can't use like sandals that are like Crocs and stuff like that. That won't work. The upper bone of your foot needs to be exposed. Just like those, the flip flop styles. Get the sturdy ones, but it has to be that style.
What about the sandal with the black side?
We have like this black strap, 2 strap up. They are also okay.
As long as the top bone is left uncovered, this area right here.
Yeah.
This area right here should be left uncovered. If the straps from the behind and this front part is not covered, because many of them strap around in the front as well. That's problematic. But if you're this in the back, there's nothing wrong with that.
So the reason we were mentioning the belt is to keep the ihram in place. Okay. Because this is not, you know, you're not tying it or you're not doing anything, it might come off. And nobody wants that. So, and then on the second piece of clothing is the one that goes on top. It's basically like a chador, you just put it all the way around. Obviously, there's a few exceptions which we'll mention, that when you're doing the tawaf, you have to do a certain weight. So inshallah, when that portion comes, we'll explain. Okay? Any questions about this? Yes.
For the women,
Yes.
with the feet, isn't it like outside of Salah and inside of Salah, you're supposed to be good? What is like the ruling of feet covering feet around?
So they can wear any shoes they want.
Is it required for them to wear, for example, or
For women in ihram, they can wear any type of footwear. There's no restriction on footwear for women. That's strictly from it.
do they need to cover their?
No, it's up to them. That's up to them.
Yes.
Well, I guess that kind of like the men wear umbrella. Is that like?
That's not recommended. Just take an umbrella
Okay.
because there will be certain portions of your list.
Because you're covering portions of your head, and effectively it's like a hat. Right?
Oh, I see.
If it's loose, you're carrying it separately. Wallahu a'lam, I would refer that to maybe one of the Muftis, but it seems problematic because you're still technically wearing it on the head.
Yeah. So we have been told to carry umbrella. What is that for? Like which area?
For shade. You know, the sun's is going to be hot.
Okay.
It'll be
It's going to be very hot.
Yeah.
Especially now that it's summer. I mean, again, you know, it's very a lot of unexpected things happen along with it.
Thank you.
So this is now that the person he has worn the ihram and he's about to reach the miqat. Okay, we're in the plane. We're about to reach the miqat. What I you know, this is the time where a person they can apply fragrance. They can apply fragrance on their ihram. They can put whatever ether they want. You know, Louis Vuitton, Gucci, whatever you use. You can put it on your ihram. And as soon as you read and then you just wait when the announcement comes for the miqat, then you read the dua. And the dua for entering, you know, obviously you read you make the intention. The intention is Allahumma inni uridu al-umrata wa yassirha li wa taqabbalha minni. Wa taqabbalha minni. It's very simple. Oh Allah, I'm intending umrah. You can make it in any language. Oh Allah, I'm intending umrah. So make it easy for me and accept it from me. Okay, and then you read the talbiyah 3 times, 5 times, or any odd number of times. After you make the intention and you read the talbiyah, you are officially in the state of ihram, cutting the cutting the nails, removing any unwanted hair, even just plucking, and all these things they're prohibited. Obviously, when you make wudu and sometimes 1 or 2 hair falls out, that's okay. That doesn't necessitate any. Any sadaqah or any good. So you recite the talbiyah, which is labbaik Allahumma labbaik la sharika laka labbaik innal hamda wal ni'mata laka wal mulk la sharika lak. Okay, you read this as many times as you can. Okay, after you enter into the state of ihram, this is your official dhikr. This is the dhikr that you should recite as many times as you can. Obviously, you know, in the plane you can recite it loud as not so loud, but you can recite it a little audibly so that you only yourself can hear. But obviously this is the dhikr this is your official dhikr for the state of ihram. Just keep reading this as many times as you can. Okay, so now that once we're officially in the state of ihram, there are certain things which are prohibited, and some of them are mentioned here. Okay. So this is basically the page which mentions all the prohibitions. Number 1, prohibition of intercourse or the likes thereof are all prohibited. So anything that you need to do, you make sure that you do it before you enter the state of ihram. Okay, and remember, as we mentioned, as Mom mentioned, just go with a clear mind. When you go for Umrah and Hajj, go with a clear mind. If there's something that you really need to do, like you really need to eat a badmash burger, just do it. Okay? Just clear your head. Okay, you're going to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is not a random invitation. Not everybody gets invited to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are people who have better health than us, and there are people who have better transportation than us, and they're more financially well off. but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only invites the selected. So this opportunity, and especially, those who are going every year, mashallah, for Umrah and Hajj, overnight, they could not go. COVID hit, they could not go. And now, they're like, oh, as soon as COVID is done, once again, we're going to go every year. And now this lottery system comes, they cannot go. So, this experience, and this is actually an opportunity that each and every single moment we should be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we should clear our minds. Nothing in this world matters. We're going to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing in this world matters. We're going to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So whatever it is, there's something I really got to do, just get it done before you board that plane. Similarly, this doesn't apply nowadays, but prohibition of hunting animals, and we should not use scent, perfumed oil, or anything that has fragrance, whether on the body or on the clothes or in food or drink. Similarly, we should not shave, clip, pluck, tear, or clip nails, and men should not use stitched clothing, as we mentioned. Prohibition of men wearing any footwear covering the central bone of the upper part of the feet, which Muhammad explained. And men should not cover their heads or face. Men should not, as mentioned there, and women should not cover their face. Do not cause harm to anyone, verbally and physically, as Muhammad very beautifully, and he took care of that part. So does anybody have any questions about the
Yeah, so for women, can you wear like a mask or is that like not allowed?
So if it's a necessary requirement, then they're allowed to wear it.
If it's a requirement from where the government imposes it,
Yeah.
then a person will have to wear it and then also give a portion of them. Inshallah, stay in touch with that. We'll show the WhatsApp. We're gonna be in touch with the Muslims and stuff like that. See, we're not really sure how things are gonna play out there.
Right.
So as we find out updates, inshallah, we're gonna be updating those informations. But ordinarily, even if a woman or a man is wearing a mask, they would have to give them at the end of it. We'll just have to see how it works out. If it's imposed, it's one thing, but if it's kind of self-done, that would be problematic.
What about that face?
He has a question.
Yes.
So I was wondering what you mean by scented food and drink.
So basically, things that have like.
Like certain foods, fruits and stuff like that, they have you have certain things that they're highly fragranced. For example, there's certain like ice creams will add like rose essence and stuff. The things are very, and after you eat it, it's like you're emanating that fragrance, right? You want to be cautious that whatever you're consuming is not gonna like later on cause you to like, give off the fragrance.
So that's like wasn't fragrance.
Yeah, something that's like added specifically to make it more fragrant. Yeah, if it's like natural, like you're eating food and every food's gonna have a smell to it. Right? That's not gonna come to that.
Like biryani kind of thing.
No. If you're eating normal food, the smell of the food is okay, but sometimes they add certain fragrances to the food to enhance it, right? It's talking about that. A good example would be ice cream. They add like sometimes expensive ice creams will add like rose essences and special fragrances to make it like more enhanced. And after you eat it, you're like actually that fragrance still stays with you. It's things like that.
Okay, so things which a person can do while in the state of ihram. It is permissible, obviously, to use an umbrella or shadow of any object as long as it does not touch the head. It is permissible to wear a ring, pair of glasses, hearing aid, wristwatch, belt, or girdle which protects one's money and documents. Permissible to change one's garment and to wash them as well, to wash one's hair and body without removing dirt by means of using soap. And as we mentioned, if you're washing your body or you're washing your hair, it should be with unscented soap. Similarly, it does not matter if hair comes off by itself during washing without you intending. It is also permissible to cover the body, including feet, with blanket, coat, or sleeping bag, but do not cover the head and face. Do not cover the head and face. And of course, it is permissible to use the swab to clean it. Yes.
It's permissible to comb hair.
Yes.
What if
It's not advisable.
Yeah.
It's It's not advisable. If you comb your hair and something does come out, that would be an offense. Okay. And remember, the state of being disheveled, that's beloved in that state of Islam. I actually mentioned in certain hadith that two things: being covered in dust and a person's hair being all disheveled. These two things are actually mentioned in the hadith about desirable states that in the state of Islam.
Okay, so now this is the portion where we will mention the actual Umrah. So before we get to the Tawaf al-Qudum, we mentioned when you're entering the Masjid al-Haram. Okay, as soon as you land in the plane, you're reading your talbiyah and you go through the customs, you go through everything that's needed. Just have patience. They might take your passport and you'll get it after like 6 hours, whatever the case may be. That happened to us. They took our passport and 6 hours we're just waiting outside in the hot, and they didn't even let us wait in the terminal. They took us outside and we just waited there for 6 hours. And so these things happen. Just go along with it, have sabr, and just read your talbiyah. And what if the prayer times come around, just pray your prayers and continue in that state. One thing I forgot to mention is that in the plane, this is, as we mentioned, this is a special opportunity from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if a person is not going to be engaged in ibadah the entire time, then it is recommended for that person just to sleep. It's better for you to sleep than to get involved in other things, because there will be, there'll be factors of guarding your eyes and possibility of looking at the, entertainment system, so on and so forth. If you're not going to do ibadah and you're tired, just go to sleep. That's much better for you than all the other opportunities that are there to kind of take away from that experience and from this opportunity that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. So once you get to your hotel and after everything is done, just kind of relax a little bit and rest if you need it. If a person, he needs rest, make sure you take that rest. Make sure you take that rest. Why? Because you want to go and perform the Umrah, which is not that, it'll take probably around 2 hours, 3 hours. But still, you want to go when you're fully rested. You don't want to go have a sleep. You don't want to go have a sleep. So if you need a little bit of rest, take the rest. And if you don't need it, then mashallah, just freshen up and immediately go for the Masjid al-Haram.
Just to give an idea of the experience at the airport, plan to be there 12 to 14 hours. All together. If it's less than that, alhamdulillah, but it's not unheard of. It's actually quite common to hear people, how long 12 to 14 hours, it's reasonable to expect it can happen to some people, right?
Yeah, I think so.
It's not out of the ordinary for people to be there that long. Inshallah, hopefully it'll be faster, but like 6 to 8 is like on the fast side. 6 to 8 is on the fast side. So expect to be at the airport a very long time.
Yeah, so I think my flight is gonna land on the 5th of July. And if I was thinking okay, so maybe that will have time for Umrah, but if it's 12 to 18 hours, so is that
It'll be fun.
is that still fun?
Because Hajj is not supposed to be around until around the 9th or so, right? 8th or 9th?
Yeah.
Umrah itself, the act of Umrah, it's only a matter of a few hours.
Yeah.
So once you get to Makkah, it's very easy to finish your Umrah in a few hours.
Okay.
The Umrah is actually very, the hardest part of Umrah is airport. The Umrah itself is actually not that difficult. Usually.
Okay, so once you get to the Haram, you try to the best of your abilities to enter through Bab Salam. Otherwise, I think right now it's restricted. So you just go through Bab Salam, I think.
I think last time.
Yeah, King Fahd.
Okay.
Yeah, King Fahd.
Right now, logistically, certain gates are open and certain gates are closed. This whatever gate you can get in from. The gate that you use to get into the Mutaq is the King Fahd gate, which is close. It will be close from the hotels, but there's whatever gate you can actually gain access to.
It's right across the clock tower. So as soon as right in front of it, that's where gate King Fahd is. So you go through that, and you go with the utmost respect and honor. And trust me, even if you don't plan it, you're gonna get it. Because the place, that place, it exudes that honor and that awe. you just feel like, you're in a very holy sanctuary. It feels like a very, it feels, once a person is there, they know what I'm talking about. So you go there, and then as soon as your eyesight catches the glimpse of the Kaaba, this is where you make dua. Obviously, don't stand in the middle of the road. So try to go to the side and make dua. As the ulama mentioned, that the first time you see the Kaaba, and some of the ulama, they mentioned that every time you go and the first time you see the Kaaba, duas are accepted. Duas are accepted. So as soon as you see the Kaaba, make dua. Just wait a few minutes, make dua. And if a person is very smart, then he'll make this dua, that the same dua that Imam Hanifa rahimahullah made. The dua that he made when he first saw the Kaaba, oh Allah, accept all my duas. That's the smart thing to do. As soon as you see the Kaaba, you make the dua, oh Allah, accept all my duas. Obviously, after that, you continue making your duas. And remember, at each juncture that we mentioned, these are all places of acceptance of duas. That whole place is an acceptance of, basically. But there are specific junctures which are specifically mentioned that these are places where duas are accepted. And one of them is when you see the Kaaba for the first time. So as soon as you see the Kaaba and you're about to, once you come to the, okay. So I will just mention once we get to the Kaaba, and then we'll start the tawaf, inshallah, after the prayer. So once you keep going, you keep reciting the talbiyah on the way to the haram. Again, men should do it loudly, women should do it softly. And once you get there, once you get into the mataf, and I don't know, again, because there's a lot of unknowns nowadays, if you're allowed in the mataf or you're not allowed in the mataf, but whatever the case may be, you have to find a green light. As soon as you go, that's because that's where the start of the tawaf is. Whether it's inside the mataf is basically that area. It's like that, what is it called?
The floor,
The floor, ground floor, basically. Mataf is the ground floor. Exactly in line with the Kaaba, that's where the mataf is. So, full of tiles, that's that place. And then, other places are like first floor, second floor, third floor. So if you're allowed in the mataf, then you go in the mataf and you try to find the green light. Yes.
So I have I believe something like, basically I thought that all duas are accepted, right? Every time you raise your hand,
Of course.
right? So
That's
find if you see the maktab for the first time.
so this is just like as they mentioned that when you do this you'll enter paradise, whereas la ilaha illallah is sufficient for paradise, right? When you accept the kalima la ilaha, but it gives that emphasis. It gives that your dua will most certainly be readily accepted. It's just one notch up, basically. Also,
Yeah, it's thinking like this, right? You mentioned is very correct. That all duas are accepted as long as there's no hindrance to being accepted, right? A person consuming haram, a person having doing an act of oppression, all duas will otherwise be accepted. But there's certain things you can say are more the acceptance is more heavy, right? The weight of the moment is more heavy. It's more significant, right? If you want to think of it like this, all ice cream or like all biryani or whatever, take your favorite food. It's all biryani is biryani, ice cream is ice cream. It's all the same, right? But you have certain cooks, their biryani is not like other people's cooks, other people's biryani. There's certain brands of ice cream. If you go get the Sunny Select ice cream, and you can get like the Haagen-Dazs ice cream, or you can get like I don't know, you go to Fenton's and have some like nice, you get the high-end ice cream, right? So it's all the same, but there's certain things which are a little bit extra special.
Any other questions?
So
Yes.
what is the diameter, like total mileage for the first floor or second,
I don't know by mileage, but basically, if you're on the ground floor, it will take you between 30 minutes to 45 minutes if you're on the far end. The closer that you are,
one circle or for
no,
the total?
full 7, sir.
For 7, 30.
But if you're the closer that you are, but nowadays, even if you're close, there's so much traffic, there's so many people, that's probably going to take the same time that if you were to go outside and perform it, in a longer circle, it's probably going to take the same time. But if you have to do it on the first, second, third floor, that's going to take at least an hour.
Yeah, without crowds, while Ahmed mentioned, like about half an hour to 40 minutes on the job. I've done second floor without crowds. It took me about an hour, 15 hour, 20.
I see.
It just, but crowds make a difference, though. Crowds make a big difference.
And if you get tired, you can also sit down during the service.
Yeah.
So,
But you need to make sure you do a full circle each time.
okay.
Quick question. So let's say you're on your fourth circle, like somewhere halfway, right? And then the adhan kicks in, right? So you're praying, you prayed your salah, and like I said, you're in your fourth, like in the halfway. So when you continue, like, do you continue for like from that fourth one, or you kind of go back to the green circle and start your fourth one again and fifth and sixth? Like, you know what I mean?
Depends if it's a such a thing where like your tawaf was broken and you just continue from there, then you can continue from there.
Okay.
But if it's something where, for example, there was an interruption, you had to go back or something happened, then it's better you start from the beginning of the Hajj Aswad and start a circle from there.
Got it.
Normally what they do is, they'll start lining up and everything. So when you're doing the tawaf, you just try to find a spot and just stop there. And so that you can continue from that exact spot. Otherwise, when the actual prayer is about to start, then you might have to, shuffle back and forth. So rather try to see, like, okay, the adhan's been given, everybody's lining up. Let me just pick this spot and stop here. But you'll see, like, people will be lining up for the prayers and there'll be people in front of them doing the tawaf. So just try to find a spot so then you can continue your tawaf from that exact spot. Okay, inshallah, we'll break for salah. And then after that, we'll continue with the tawaf.